It happened on a Thursday evening, the kind of night when the air feels heavy with rain even though the clouds haven't burst yet. I was at Dalton's Diner, a place I'd been going to for years, mostly out of habit. The waitresses there all knew me by name, but that night it wasn't routine at all. It was the night I should have died. My grandson Ethan had insisted we eat there. "Grandpa," he'd said earlier that day, "let me take you out. My treat. We don't spend enough time together." His tone had been smooth, practiced, the kind of sweetness he only laid on when money was involved. I should have been suspicious right then, but when you're old, you want to believe the people you love still love you back. We sat by the window booth, rain smearing the glass outside, neon lights from the liquor store across the street flickering against the wet pavement. Ethan ordered for both of us, which he'd never done before. "Grandpa will have the house stew," he told the waitress, "with a side of cornbread. And bring him a tall iced tea, extra lemon." I opened my mouth to say I preferred coffee, but Ethan shot me a quick glance, tight and sharp, so I let it slide. It was easier sometimes to just go along. The tea arrived first. A tall glass beaded with condensation, a lemon wedge balancing on the rim. I reached for it out of habit. That's when she stopped me. "Sir, wait," the waitress said. She was new, maybe 23. Her name tag said Marissa. She looked nervous, but her eyes were steady. "You wanted extra lemon, right?" Ethan jumped in before I could answer. "Yeah, that's fine. He likes it that way." But Marissa didn't set the drink down right away. She tilted her head, studying the glass like something about it bothered her. Then she leaned just slightly toward me and said quietly, "Doesn't it seem a little cloudy?" I frowned. I hadn't noticed until she said it. The tea wasn't the clear amber it should have been. It had a faint haze, like something had dissolved in it that shouldn't be there. Ethan chuckled, a sound too loud for the quiet diner. "Probably just melted ice. Don't make a big deal out of it." He reached over as if to push the glass toward me. But Marissa didn't move her hand. "I'll get you a fresh one," she said firmly, lifting the drink before I could touch it. "On the house." Ethan's jaw tightened. "That's unnecessary," he muttered. She ignored him and walked away. I remember the way he watched her go, his eyes narrowing, his fingers drumming against the table. Something in that look froze me inside. "Grandpa," he said softly, leaning closer, "don't start imagining things. People your age, they worry too much about little details. Just relax and enjoy the night." I wanted to believe him, I really did. But the longer I sat there, the more his words sounded rehearsed. My chest tightened with something I hadn't felt in years, suspicion. When Marissa returned, she placed a new glass in front of me, clear as gold, the lemon bright yellow against the ice. She bent slightly as she set it down and whispered, so low Ethan couldn't hear, "Don't drink anything you didn't open yourself." I looked up at her, startled. She didn't say more, just gave the smallest nod and walked off to another table. My pulse thudded in my ears. Ethan forced a smile. "Well, aren't they thorough here tonight? Anyway, Grandpa, I wanted to talk about your will." And there it was. The real reason. His voice lowered, careful, like a salesman about to close a deal. "You've always said family comes first. I think it would make sense to simplify things. Just put everything in my name now, that way there's no confusion later." I stared at him, my fingers resting on the cool glass Marissa had brought. I didn't drink. I just watched him. Every word he spoke landed like a stone in my gut. He was 25, impatient, his whole life ahead of him, but he wanted mine gone already. The food arrived then, steaming bowls of stew and warm cornbread. Ethan pushed mine toward me with exaggerated cheer. "Eat up, Grandpa. You'll feel better with something in your stomach." But I couldn't take a bite. Not yet. Because in that moment, I realized something chilling. Marissa hadn't just noticed the tea, she had noticed him. And when her eyes flicked toward me again from across the diner, I saw fear there. The kind of fear that said she knew more than she could say out loud. I didn't touch the food. Ethan noticed. "You're not eating," he said, his spoon clinking against the side of his bowl. His smile looked forced, too many teeth showing. "You love stew." "Come on, Grandpa, don't be difficult." My hand shook just a little as I tore off a piece of cornbread, but I set it back down. I wasn't sure if it was nerves or something colder crawling up my spine. That waitress, Marissa, her warning clung to me like smoke. "I'll eat in a minute," I said quietly. Ethan leaned back in the booth, studying me the way a predator studies whether the prey has noticed the trap. His voice softened, almost syrupy. "You know, Grandpa, I just want to take care of you. You don't have to struggle with all those decisions anymore. If you just signed over the paperwork, I could handle everything. House, accounts, all of it." He said it like a kindness, but I heard the hunger underneath. The kind that doesn't stop once it gets a taste. I excused myself, muttering something about washing my hands, and slid out of the booth. My knees felt heavier than usual as I walked past the counter, but I found Marissa by the kitchen door, stacking plates. "Miss," I said, my voice low, "what did you see in that glass?" She looked around quickly, making sure Ethan couldn't hear, then leaned in. "I saw your grandson open a small vial under the table. He poured something in while I was turning with the tray. He thought I didn't notice, but I did." The diner noise, clinking forks, murmured conversations, the hum of the fridge, faded until her words were the only thing I could hear. My throat tightened. "Are you certain?" I whispered. Her eyes didn't flinch. "Sir, I've waited tables for years. I know when someone's messing with a drink. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't lemon juice, I can tell you that." The room tilted for a second. My own grandson. My flesh and blood. Planning to kill me for the money. She touched my sleeve, gently. "Don't go back to that table. I'll tell the manager you need some air. Go out the back door. Think before you do anything." I nodded, though my legs felt unsteady, like they weren't mine anymore. But when I turned to leave, Ethan was already standing by the booth, watching us. His smile didn't reach his eyes. He raised his hand and gave me a little wave, like everything was perfectly normal. I forced myself to walk back slowly, each step deliberate, trying not to show what I now knew. "Everything all right, Grandpa?" he asked, sliding back into the booth as I sat down. "That waitress didn't give you any trouble, did she?" My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. I gave him a faint smile. "No trouble. She was just checking in." He relaxed a little, but his eyes stayed sharp. He didn't trust me. Not anymore. I stared at the stew. Steam curled upward, the smell of beef and onions filling the air. I pushed the bowl slightly away. "Not hungry?" he asked, feigning concern. "Maybe later," I said. For a moment neither of us spoke. The diner felt colder. I could hear the rain picking up outside, tapping against the window like impatient fingers. Ethan finally leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Grandpa, you've had a good run. A long life. Don't you think it's time to pass the torch?" I didn't answer. I just kept my gaze steady on him, watching every flicker of expression across his face. He mistook my silence for hesitation. "Think about it," he said, patting my hand like I was a child. "If something happened to you suddenly, it'd be chaos. Courts, lawyers, fees. But if you sign the papers, everything stays in the family. Safe. With me." His hand lingered too long on mine. My stomach turned. And then, like fate itself intervened, Marissa appeared again. She set a coffee in front of me. "On the house, sir," she said, her voice polite but her eyes meeting mine with intensity. She slipped a folded receipt under the cup. Ethan didn't notice. He was too busy rehearsing more persuasive lines. I waited until he turned his head toward the window, pretending to check the weather. Then I slid the paper open beneath the table. Just 4 words, written in neat, hurried pen. "Call police. Now." I looked back at Ethan. He was smiling again, tapping his spoon on the table, waiting for me to agree to give him everything I had. And at that moment I knew, The boy wasn't going to stop. Not tonight, not ever. But I couldn't call the police. Not yet. Revenge needed to be planned carefully, timed precisely. For now, I lifted the coffee, letting the steam warm my face. Ethan, I said softly, you're right. Maybe it's time we had a serious talk. His grin widened. He thought he'd won. He had no idea what was coming. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the old house felt like a threat. The shadows on the ceiling shifted too easily, like they were alive. I kept hearing Marissa's whisper in my head. He poured something in. Ethan wanted me gone. That much was clear. But going to the police right away? No. That would end things too fast, and he'd twist it, claim I was confused, senile, maybe even vengeful. No, if I wanted justice, it had to be irrefutable. By morning I had a plan. When Ethan called at 10 sharp, his voice was honey smooth. Grandpa, how are you feeling after last night? That stew didn't upset your stomach, did it? I gripped the receiver tight, keeping my voice calm. I'm fine. Strong as ever. Listen, Ethan, I've been thinking. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's time I let you handle some of the family business. He didn't answer right away. The silence told me he hadn't expected me to fold so easily. Then came the laugh, short and triumphant. That's great, Grandpa. Really great. We should meet soon, go over the details. Tomorrow, I said. At the house. I'll get the paperwork together. He agreed too quickly. The moment I hung up, I sat at the kitchen table with a yellow notepad, drawing up a different kind of paperwork. My lawyer friend, Harold, owed me a favor. Instead of handing Ethan my estate, I'd have him draft something else entirely. Documents that looked official enough to tempt, but carried a hidden trap. Ethan would believe he was inheriting everything. In truth, he'd be signing his own confession. I called Harold. His laugh rumbled low when I explained. You want me to bait the boy? Bait him and hook him, I said. He tried to poison me, Harold. He'll try again if I don't act. You've got proof? Not yet. But I'll get it. Harold sighed. You always did play the long game. I'll draft something that looks like an advance inheritance agreement. But the fine print will say otherwise. When he signs, he's admitting intent. That was step 1. Step 2 required Marissa. I went back to Dalton's diner at lunchtime. She looked surprised to see me, her hair tied back in a bun, a pencil behind her ear. You're back already? I owe you my life, I said quietly. But I need more. Ethan's not finished, not by a long shot. I need a witness. Someone who saw what he did with that drink. She hesitated, glancing toward the counter where the manager stood. If I say anything official, he'll know it was me. He'll come after me, too. I nodded. I wouldn't ask you to go to the police yet. Just be ready. When the time comes, I'll need you to confirm what you saw. Her eyes softened. You're really going to take him down, aren't you? Yes, I said, and for the first time in years, I felt steel in my voice. But I'll do it on my terms. She studied me for a long moment, then gave a small nod. All right. I'll stand by you. Just be careful. That night I set the trap. I spread Harold's papers neatly across my desk, highlighting spots for Ethan's signature. I even left out my old checkbook, making it look like I was ready to write him something on the spot. At 7 the next evening, his car pulled into the driveway. I watched from the window as he adjusted his tie in the mirror, rehearsing the part of a dutiful grandson. My stomach twisted with both anger and sadness. This was the boy I once taught to ride a bike, the boy who used to beg for ice cream after Little League games. Now he looked at me and saw nothing but dollar signs. I opened the door before he could knock. Come in, Ethan. He stepped inside, flashing that same rehearsed smile. Grandpa, you're looking well. Better than yesterday, I said, closing the door behind him. Let's sit in the study. He followed me, his eyes darting immediately to the desk, the papers, the checkbook. He thought the hunt was over, the prey cornered. Sit, I told him. He did, smoothing his tie, already eager. These, I said, sliding the documents toward him, are what we'll sign tonight. It gives you full control of my assets. House, accounts, everything. His hand trembled slightly as he picked up the pen. You won't regret this, Grandpa. You'll see, I'll take care of everything. I leaned back, watching him lower the pen to the page. But before the tip touched the paper, I said, Of course, before we finalize, there's one thing I need from you. He looked up, suspicious. What's that? Your word, I said slowly. That you'll be honest about everything you've done. Every decision, every action. Including last night at the diner. The pen froze in his hand. For the first time, Ethan's smile faltered. Ethan's pen hovered above the paper, his hand stiff, his eyes searching mine for a hint of weakness. What are you talking about, Grandpa? He asked carefully. Last night? We just had dinner. What else would I have done? His voice was too calm, too deliberate, like he was choosing each word as if they were stepping stones across a raging river. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I leaned forward, elbows on the desk, and let the silence stretch. I'd learned long ago that silence can break a man faster than shouting. And sure enough, I saw the faint twitch at the corner of his mouth, the small tremor in his fingers. I mean, I said finally, my voice soft but steady. The waitress seemed concerned. Said you poured something into my drink? I don't know what she thought she saw, but it was strange. His eyes widened just slightly, only for a heartbeat, before he recovered. That's ridiculous. Why would I do that? He gave a short laugh, but it didn't ring true. She must have been mistaken. Probably saw me squeeze the lemon. I let him twist. Maybe so, I said, pretending to consider. But she was certain. Even slipped me a note, told me not to drink it. Odd, don't you think? The air thickened between us. Ethan's jaw flexed, his smile frozen in place, but his eyes betrayed him. They darted to the papers on the desk, then back to me. He wanted this inheritance badly enough to kill for it, but he hadn't expected me to confront him so directly. Finally, he set the pen down with a little click. Grandpa, you've been under a lot of stress. You're older now. Sometimes people your age misinterpret things. I think this waitress just scared you unnecessarily. There it was, the patronizing tone. The kind people use when they want you to doubt yourself. He leaned forward, lowering his voice to something almost soothing. You've always said you trust me? And I've always been here for you. Don't let some stranger put ideas in your head. I almost laughed. Always been here. Ethan barely visited unless money was involved. But I kept my face blank, letting him think his words might be working. Maybe you're right, I murmured. But I can't stop thinking about it. Makes me wonder what would happen if something did happen to me suddenly. His eyes flickered again, a quick spark of greed before he smothered it with concern. Nothing's going to happen to you, Grandpa. You'll live for years yet. But if it eases your mind, signing these papers would make sure everything's secure. For both of us. He pushed the documents back toward himself, pen in hand again, eager. Too eager. I held up a hand. Wait. One condition. He froze. What now? I want us to celebrate tonight, I said. A toast. Just you and me. If we're making this official, let's mark the occasion properly. Relief washed over his face. He thought I was conceding. Of course. That's a great idea. I stood slowly, joints creaking, and walked to the cabinet where I kept an old bottle of bourbon. Ethan's eyes followed every move. He thought he had me cornered. But when I poured the drinks, I made sure to set both glasses in front of him. Go ahead, I said casually. You pour. His hand hesitated for just a second before he picked up the bottle. He filled both glasses evenly, no tricks this time. But his eyes never left me as he slid one across the desk. I picked it up, swirling the amber liquid. To family, I said. He clinked his glass against mine. to family. We drank. The bourbon burned warm down my throat, familiar and steady. I watched him swallow his own, his throat working, his eyes narrowing as if he expected me to keel over then and there. When nothing happened, his shoulders relaxed. Too much. He thought the danger had passed. I set my empty glass down carefully, then leaned back in my chair. You know, Ethan, I said, my voice even. You remind me of your father when he was your age. Always impatient. Always wanting more before he'd earned it. His face tightened. I'm nothing like my father. Oh, you're right about that, I said. He may have been reckless, but he never once thought about killing me for a paycheck. The glass slipped in his hand, clinking against the desk. His eyes went wide, his mask finally shattering. What did you say? I said. I repeated slowly, savoring every word. That you tried to poison me. The room went dead silent, except for the ticking of the old clock on the wall. And then Ethan did something I hadn't expected. He smiled. That smile chilled me more than any threat could have. It wasn't the grin of a boy caught in a lie. It was the smile of someone who no longer needed to pretend. Well, Ethan said softly, leaning back in his chair. I guess there's no use hiding it anymore, is there? I didn't move. I just watched him, letting him talk. He set his empty glass on the desk, tapping it with one finger. You're sharper than I gave you credit for, Grandpa. Most men your age would have downed that iced tea without a second thought. You were supposed to die last night. Quick, quiet, no mess. Just a tragic accident with a contaminated drink. My stomach turned, but my face stayed calm. And then what? He shrugged, casual, as though we were discussing the weather. Then the estate would come to me. Everyone knows you trusted me most. It would have been clean. I leaned forward, folding my hands. And what about the waitress? She saw you. His smile widened. People see what I tell them to see. She's a nobody. If she talks, I'll ruin her. People believe me, Grandpa. Young, ambitious, respectable. You're just old. That last word hit like a slap. Old. Disposable. That's how he saw me. And if I tell the police? I asked. He laughed. What would you tell them? That your grandson poured lemon juice into your tea? Without proof, without evidence, it's just the rambling of a paranoid old man. They'd pat you on the head and send you home. The confidence in his voice was staggering. He believed he'd already won. But he hadn't noticed the tiny recorder hidden inside the desk drawer, its red light blinking silently. Every word he spoke was being captured. Every confession. Harold's idea. Make him talk, Harold had said. He'll bury himself if you let him. Still, I played along. So what now, Ethan? If you know I'm onto you, what's your next move? His eyes gleamed. Simple. We move faster. You sign those papers tonight, make it official. And then... He leaned closer, his breath hot, his voice low. Then maybe I don't have to try again. Maybe you just fade away quietly, with dignity. Otherwise... He let the sentence hang, unfinished, but the threat was clear. My heart hammered, but I forced a calm smile. You always were ambitious, Ethan. Too ambitious. Ambition built this country, Grandpa. He snapped, suddenly defensive. Do you think you'd have half of what you own if you hadn't clawed your way up? I'm just doing the same thing. I'm not waiting around for you to die of old age. I'm taking what's mine. His voice cracked on that last word, and for a moment I saw it, the desperation behind the arrogance. He wasn't just greedy. He was drowning in something, debts maybe, or promises he couldn't keep. That gave me leverage. I leaned back, pretending to consider. Maybe I'll sign. Maybe. But not until tomorrow. I need to sleep on it. Ethan's jaw tightened. Tomorrow might be too late. Then you'll wait, I said firmly. Or you'll get nothing at all. We stared at each other across the desk, the old clock ticking louder with every passing second. Finally, he stood, smoothing his jacket. All right. Tomorrow, then. But you'd better not change your mind. He walked to the door, pausing with his hand on the knob. He looked back, his eyes cold now, stripped of any warmth. You're playing a dangerous game, Grandpa. Careful you don't lose before you even know the rules. The door shut behind him. The house fell silent. I exhaled, my body trembling now that he was gone. On the desk, the recorder's light still blinked, holding every word of his confession. Proof enough to end this tonight. But as I reached for it, my phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. Don't go to the police. Meet me tomorrow at the diner. 3 p.m. I have something you need to see. Marissa. My hand froze over the recorder. What could she possibly have that was more important than what I already had? And then it hit me, maybe she had evidence. Something stronger than words. Something that could finish Ethan for good. But if Ethan suspected she was involved... I set the recorder back in the drawer, locked it, and leaned back in my chair, staring at the shadows on the ceiling. Tomorrow wasn't just another day. Tomorrow was the day this war with my grandson would either end in justice or in blood. The rain hadn't stopped the next day. It drummed steady on the diner's roof as I pushed open the glass door at 3 sharp. The bell jingled overhead, the same cheerful sound it had made for decades, but nothing about that day felt cheerful. Marissa spotted me from behind the counter and gave a subtle nod toward the far corner booth. I slid into the vinyl seat, my heart pounding. She joined me a moment later, a manila envelope in her hands. You came, she said softly. I almost didn't, I admitted. I already have him on tape. A confession. Her eyes widened. That's good. But this, she tapped the envelope, is better. Proof. He didn't just try once. He's been planning this for weeks. She opened the envelope and slid out several glossy photos. My stomach turned as I stared. Pictures of Ethan at a pharmacy, buying unmarked bottles. Another of him in the diner's parking lot, hand cupped around a small vial as he poured it into a drink. Timestamps in the corner of each shot. You took these? I asked. She shook her head. No. One of the cooks noticed him the other week, messing with sugar packets. The guy's got a sister in law enforcement, so he started snapping photos just in case. When he saw what happened last night, he gave them to me. Said you should have them. I stared at the evidence, bow rising in my throat. My own grandson, methodical, patient, turning my death into a project. Thank you, I whispered. But before she could answer, the bell above the door jingled again. Ethan. He walked in dripping rain, his hair slicked back, his eyes scanning the room until they locked on me. His smile was slow, practiced. He walked over, slid into the booth opposite me, and nodded politely at Marissa. Grandpa, he said smoothly, you didn't tell me we were having company. Marissa stiffened but didn't move. Ethan set his hands on the table, palms open, like he was making peace. I thought we agreed. Tonight at the house. Why rush things? Because, I said quietly, sliding one of the photos toward him. You've already tried to kill me once. Maybe twice. He glanced at the picture. For a moment, his face went blank. Then he chuckled, pushing it back. Fake. Anyone can doctor a photo these days. You really think the police will believe that? I leaned closer, my voice steady. Not just the photo, Ethan. I have your words. Every single one. Recorded. That hit him. His jaw clenched, his hands curling slightly on the table. You tricked me. No, I said, my voice low and cold. You tricked yourself. You opened your mouth. You showed your true face. All I did was listen. The rain outside grew heavier, drowning the silence between us. Marissa's hand hovered near her apron pocket, where I suspected she'd tucked her phone. Ethan leaned back, his smile returning, thinner now, sharper. So what's the plan, Grandpa? Hand me to the cops? Drag the family name through the mud? Spend the rest of your life testifying in court? I didn't answer right away. My gaze drifted to the coffee pot behind the counter, steam rising in slow curls. Justice or revenge? The two words battled inside me. Finally I said, no court. No police. You'll sign those papers tonight. But not the ones you think. The real ones? You'll sign a full confession, with witnesses. And then you'll leave. You'll never come near me again. Ethan's eyes narrowed. And if I don't? I leaned in, so close he could see the tremor in my jaw, the fury behind my calm. Then the police get everything. The tape. The photos. Your life will end in a cell instead of a house. We stared each other down. The storm outside rattled the windows. At last, Ethan smirked. Fine. I'll sign. Better than rotting in prison. Relief flickered through me, but only faintly. He was agreeing too easily. That's when Marissa stood. Good, she said firmly. Because if you try anything else. She pulled her phone from her apron, screen glowing with the recording app already running. The whole world will know what you are. Ethan's smirk faltered. The three of us sat frozen in that booth, the rain pounding harder, the diner's neon sign buzzing faintly. Finally, Ethan slid out of the seat. Tonight then, he said, his voice flat. I'll sign whatever you put in front of me. And he walked out, the bell jingling behind him, his figure vanishing into the storm. Marissa exhaled shakily. Do you think he means it? I shook my head. No. He'll come tonight, all right. But not to sign. To finish what he started. She paled. Then why agree to meet him? Because, I said, standing slowly, my knees aching but my resolve unshakable. I'm done waiting for him to make his move. Tonight it ends. On my terms. That night, as the storm raged on, I sat in my study with Harold's documents spread across the desk, the recorder ready, the police number written large on a notepad beside me. The front door creaked open at exactly 8 o'clock. Ethan had arrived. And as his footsteps echoed closer, I whispered to myself the one truth I'd learned too late. Family can love you. Family can betray you. But only you decide whether betrayal becomes your end, or theirs. The doorknob turned. The study door opened. And I looked my grandson in the eyes, ready for the final move.